Have you ever experienced days when your pillow felt like the only safe place in the world? When you woke up already feeling drained, as if the day had taken its toll before it even began? How many times have you fought invisible battles, wearing a smile on your face while your heart quietly cried out for help? That isn't weakness. That's what it means to be human. And even within the pages of Scripture, we find stories of faithful people going through the same. Do you remember the prophet Elijah? He had just witnessed one of the most extraordinary miracles in the Old Testament. Fire came down from the sky. A whole nation turned back to God. And yet, shortly after, he fled into the wilderness and pleaded for his life to end. He said, "I've had enough, Lord. Take my life." Can you feel the weight of those words? If a man chosen by God could feel such despair, what makes you think your own pain is less valid? But here's the beauty of that story. God didn't scold him. He didn't rebuke him. He gave him food. He let him rest. And then, he renewed him. Sometimes, all you really need is to pause, breathe, and allow God to take care of you. You don't need all the answers today. You just need to keep going. These days, that might look like switching off your phone, allowing yourself to cry, speaking to God as if you were confiding in a father, and waiting. Because heaven still listens. How many people, maybe even you, have said, "I pray," but it feels like God is silent? But what if that silence isn't absence? What if it's how He's shaping you rather than ignoring you? Have you ever woken up feeling like something inside you was shattered, yet you couldn't quite put it into words? Like a heavy weight sits on your chest, and you carry it even when you feel too weak to go on? Meanwhile, the world rushes past at full speed, but inside, you feel like everything has slowed down, like the days move forward, but your soul stays stuck. The truth is, no one ever teaches us how to handle God's silence, those seasons where faith no longer shouts, but only whispers, faintly, almost fading away. Many live through this in quiet desperation. Some smile at work, chat with everyone as if nothing's wrong, but at night, they lie down and feel a lump in their throat. They cry where no one sees. They fight to get out of bed the next morning. And perhaps that's you. Maybe you're in a season where it feels like no one really sees you. And the hardest part is that even God feels distant. Have you ever felt that? That you prayed, and nothing happened? That you asked for an answer, but it never came? But let me remind you of something you may never have realized deeply. Even the mightiest servants of God faced those dark days. Elijah was a mighty prophet. He saw fire fall from heaven, confronted hundreds of prophets of Baal, prayed and saw rain return after 3 years of drought. But do you know what happened next? He ran into the desert, sat under a tree, and begged to die. Yes, the same man who witnessed miracles reached the point where he wanted it all to end. He said, "That's enough, Lord." Have you ever said those words? "I can't take this anymore." So many have. And God heard every single one of them. And here's a beautiful detail. God didn't respond to Elijah with a lecture. He didn't reprimand him. He sent an angel. And the angel didn't bring explanations. He brought comfort. He brought food. He told him to rest. And only after that did God speak. Not through thunder, nor lightning, but through a gentle breeze. As if to say, "I'm here. I always have been." Do you know what this teaches us? That God isn't in a hurry with your pain. That He honors your pace. That sometimes, what He most longs for is that you simply rest. That you stop carrying the weight of always appearing strong. That you allow yourself to be held. In today's world, this looks a lot like the reality many people live in. The mother who manages everything and looks after everyone else, yet no one checks if she's truly okay. The young person trapped in a daily cycle that drains all hope of a better tomorrow. The father who hides the pressure of providing, silently convincing himself that he cannot fail. And so many others who look fine on the outside, but inside, are crying out for comfort. And in moments like these, what we need most isn't more advice, but to feel seen. To know that God is near, even when He feels far. That He sees you, even when the world seems to look away. And more than that, that He cares. There's a reason Jesus wept before bringing Lazarus back to life. He knew He was about to perform a miracle. But still, He wept with Mary and Martha. Because He felt their grief. He enters into our pain. He doesn't rush past it. He sits with us in the shadows of our soul, quietly staying close until we have the strength to rise. And sometimes, rising isn't sprinting ahead or solving everything at once. Sometimes, rising is simply choosing to go on. to breathe again, to take just one more step. And if that's where you are right now, if the only thing you can manage today is a single step, that's more than enough. Because you haven't stopped. You're enduring. And in this season, that endurance is a powerful act of faith. Think about it. How many times have you fallen, only to stand again? How many nights have you wept, yet still opened your eyes to face the next day? That is strength. That is faith, even if you've never called it that. There's a verse that says, "Those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength." But waiting is not easy. It hurts. It's watching others move forward while you seem stuck. But waiting also means trusting that God is doing something beyond what you can currently perceive. So today, I want to gently encourage you to do something simple, yet profound. Make time for just you and God. It doesn't need to be an eloquent prayer. It could be tears. It could be sitting in silence. It could be telling Him how tired you feel. But take that moment. Close your eyes and whisper, "I'm exhausted, but I know you're here." Because He is. While you feel left behind, He is holding you. He is building you up. He is preparing you. You may not understand it now, but a day will come when you'll look back and realize, it was in that season of stillness that He was most at work within you. It was when no one else saw you, that He was shaping you most deeply. It was in the moment you thought all was lost, that He was quietly beginning something new. So don't give up. Don't walk away. If the only thing you can manage today is to keep breathing and wait, then that is more than enough. Because while you wait, Heaven is moving on your behalf. And when the appointed time comes, you will understand that not a single tear you cried was meaningless. That every night filled with silence had an ending. And the same God who watched over Elijah is watching over you now. How many times have you backed away from something because you believed you weren't good enough? How many doors stayed shut because fear was louder than faith? Sometimes, it's not the lack of desire that paralyzes us, it's the overwhelming weight of our own doubts. That voice in your head that whispers, "What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if I'm just not enough?" That voice may seem quiet, almost insignificant. Yet it holds a dangerous power, the power to crush dreams before they even begin to take shape. The most heartbreaking part is that many give up before they've even begun the journey. Not because they failed, but because they convinced themselves they weren't enough. The scriptures tell us the story of a young boy named David. He faced a mighty warrior named Goliath. David had none of the attributes you'd expect from a fighter. No soldier strength, no armor, no military training. He was merely a shepherd, tending sheep in the fields. But there was something within him that the entire army of Israel had overlooked: faith. David believed that God would fight beside him. And that belief made all the difference. He didn't win because he was the strongest. He triumphed because he stepped forward with bravery, even while fear lingered in his heart. In today's world, Goliath no longer appears as a towering warrior with a sword. He takes on new forms. He might be an overdue bill, a sudden illness, a job interview, a broken heart, a classroom that feels overwhelming, a new role you're unsure how to manage, or a challenge that feels far too great. And just like the ancient giant, fear stands before you, shouting that you don't have what it takes. But your reply must echo David's, "You come against me with weapons, but I come against you in the name of the Lord." You don't need to be the most qualified. You only need to be willing. True courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act in spite of it. And perhaps that is the greatest act of faith, to keep going even when nothing is guaranteed, to try when there are no promises of success, to believe even when the numbers don't add up, when reason fails to reassure you, and when those around you can't see your potential. How many dreams have been buried because someone believed they weren't good enough? How many books remain unwritten? How many songs unsung? How many businesses never started? How many relationships never given a chance? All because of the fear of failure. How many gifts has God placed within you that you've yet to access because you're waiting for the perfect time? Here's a painful truth: the perfect time doesn't exist. But faith does. And when you take that first step, something begins to shift. Life begins to respond. Doors that were once locked begin to creak open. The right people start to appear. And even more importantly, you begin to unearth a strength within you that you never knew existed. Consider people like Walt Disney, who was once dismissed from a newspaper job because they said he lacked imagination. Oprah Winfrey was told she was unsuitable for television. Steve Jobs was ousted from the very company he founded. How different would the world be if they had let fear decide their future? But they chose to keep moving. And it was that persistence, more than any talent, that carried them to victory. This truth applies to you, too. Maybe you're comparing yourself to others. Seeing people who have more money, more education, more support, more resources. But what if what God is waiting for isn't your capability, but your boldness? Because He delights in defying expectations through those the world often overlooks. You might be that employee no one notices. You might be the student who struggles to grasp the lesson while others sail through with ease. You might be the business owner striving to sell while everyone walks past. You might be the homemaker who feels invisible, the artist lacking applause, or the young soul who believes they'll never find their path. And even so, you can overcome. You can rise. You can take that first brave step. Now, let me offer you a simple challenge, something small, yet capable of changing everything. Over the course of the next 7 days, choose one thing you've been postponing because of fear, and do it. It might be sending off a CV. It could be finally starting that project you've had in mind. Recording a video. Making amends. Taking a walk. Opening your Bible. Returning to a prayer you once gave up on. Anything at all, but do it. And each day, before taking that step, say this prayer: Lord, I'm afraid, but I'll go with you. Then pay attention. Something will begin to shift. Because when faith moves into action, heaven responds. God does not move in our comfort zone. He moves where courage lives. And perhaps what is waiting for right now is just that, one step. One bold move against fear. One act that defies doubt. One motion towards the impossible. One leap of faith. Have you ever felt like everyone around you is moving forward while you remain stuck in the same place? As if life for others is flowing, changing, evolving, flourishing, while you're trapped in a loop that just keeps repeating itself. You look around and see people getting married, traveling the world, buying homes, getting promoted, and you're left asking, where did I go wrong? You try hard. You give your best. And still, the doors don't open. The results never come. Your prayers seem to rise and fall back down unanswered. Life enters a kind of holding pattern that feels endless. But is it truly that you're stuck, or are you being shaped? There's a story in the Bible that speaks directly to this. Joseph, son of Jacob. He was the apple of his father's eye. He dreamt of a future filled with greatness and believed God had a vast purpose for him. But his reality turned out very different. His own brothers sold him into slavery. Those closest to him betrayed him. Later, he was falsely accused and thrown into prison. Years went by. None of the promises materialized. His dreams remained just that, dreams. And the lingering question in his heart must have been, Lord, where are you? What no one could see was that, even within the prison walls, God was at work. Joseph was being prepared to lead. He was learning to remain loyal in obscurity. His integrity, resilience, and discernment were being strengthened. And when the right moment arrived, he went from a cell to the palace. Every trial had a meaning. Every struggle a hidden purpose. Maybe today, you're facing your own waiting season. Maybe life seems still and uninspired. Everything crawls. Nothing looks like what you had imagined. But that doesn't mean God has abandoned you. It doesn't mean His promises have been cancelled. It simply means that you are in the middle of the process. In today's world, this might look like the young person who sends out applications daily, sits through interview after interview, yet remains unemployed. Or the single mother, juggling everything alone, pouring out her strength for her children and feeling unseen, undervalued. Or the couple trying for years to conceive, each negative test a painful blow to the heart. Or the entrepreneur who gave their all, invested every penny, around £20,000 perhaps, and the business still refuses to take off. Or the church volunteer who gives everything, serves with all their heart, but feels invisible, as if God is not truly using them. But have you ever considered that maybe God is keeping you hidden for a reason? That is not unveiling you just yet because He's sheltering you from things you're not ready to face. That is preparing you in secret, away from the limelight, away from applause, away from the noise. Like a tree growing quietly underground, its roots deepening where no one sees. You can't hear the roots growing deeper underground, but they are there, reaching further, becoming stronger, forming the foundation that will sustain everything to come. Without a deep root system, the first strong gust of wind would bring everything crashing down. God knows this, which is why He often plants you long before He reveals what is planned for you. Think of Michael Jordan. When he was younger, he was dropped from his school basketball team because they believed he lacked the necessary skill. If he had taken their judgment as final, the world would never have witnessed one of the greatest athletes in history. Instead of giving up, he trained harder, use the rejection as fuel to grow, to refine himself, to be prepared. So when the right opportunity appeared, he was ready, not just physically, but in character. Because what shaped him wasn't the spotlight, but the process. And the process built in him what success alone never could. Don't let yourself be misled by the fast pace of social media. Don't fall into the trap of thinking you're behind just because someone else posted an achievement. What you see is only the stage, but the stage is held up by everything happening behind the scenes. And that's where God is currently at work in your life. Maybe you haven't seen your miracle yet, not because it's not coming, but because you haven't yet been placed in the right position to receive it. God, as a loving Father, would rather teach you first than simply hand you something you're not prepared to carry. Because a blessing given too soon, without the wisdom to handle it, can become a burden. So if today feels quiet, if you feel forgotten, unseen, overlooked, remember Joseph. He endured 13 years of testing before he was elevated. 13 years of being shaped in the dark. But when God lifted him up, nothing and no one could stand in the way. And that's the kind of confidence you need to hold on to now. The delay is not punishment. It's preparation. Time isn't your enemy, it's a tool in God's hands. His silence is not his absence, it's construction. And when the moment comes, when your name is spoken, when the right door opens, you won't just walk through it. You'll be ready to remain. Because the process will have forged you into someone who can not only experience the miracle, but maintain it. Keep going. Keep showing up, even when it's hard. Stay faithful with the little you have. Keep serving, keep loving, keep believing. Heaven hasn't forgotten about you. What today feels like a delay, will tomorrow be your testimony. And you'll look back one day, with tears of awe in your eyes, and say, it was worth the wait. Have you ever found yourself wondering whether you've made too many mistakes to begin again? That maybe you've crossed a line that can't be undone, that you've let God down too many times? Perhaps you're carrying heavy regrets, haunted by memories that never seem to fade, decisions that changed your path completely. And now, when you look in the mirror, you quietly ask yourself, is there still time for me? How many times have you wished you could rewind and do things differently? But here's the truth, the past cannot be rewritten. Yet the future can still be redeemed. And this is exactly where the grace of God steps in. Peter, one of Jesus' closest companions, understood this pain. He was the first to declare that he would never leave Jesus, bold and confident, or so it seemed. But in the darkest hour, when Jesus was arrested, fear overcame him. Peter denied even knowing him. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. 3 separate moments where he claimed not to know the one he loved most. Now imagine the anguish that struck his heart when the rooster crowed, just as Jesus had said it would. Peter remembered. And he wept bitterly. Maybe you know that kind of cry. Maybe you've looked back at something you did and felt disgust. Maybe you've wanted to disappear, felt like you failed so deeply that you no longer deserved a second chance. But look at what happened next. After the resurrection, Jesus appeared to Peter. And he didn't rebuke him. He didn't list out his failures or throw guilt in his face. Instead, Jesus simply asked him 3 times, "Do you love me?" And through Peter's 3 affirmations, Jesus not only rekindled their relationship but reignited the mission. With every yes, Jesus responded, "Then feed my sheep." In other words, Peter, I still have work for you. And perhaps that's exactly what you need to hear today. God still has work for you too. In spite of your past. In spite of the stains on your story. In spite of the mistakes you've made. God doesn't define you by your failure. He sees you through the lens of redemption. What marks your life is not your sin, but what he can bring forth from your repentance. In today's world, this might look like the father who was absent for years and now feels undeserving of his children's love. Or the woman who once made painful choices, endured toxic relationships, fought through addiction, and now believes her chance to start again has long slipped away. Or the young man who turned away from church, got caught up in the wrong crowd, and is now convinced that God has given up on him. Or that person who betrayed someone, told lies, hurt others, and now walks under the crushing weight of guilt, as if chained to it. But if you turn your eyes to the cross, you'll see it's precisely the place where every mistake can be forgiven. Where every chapter of your past can be rewritten. Where every burden of guilt can be exchanged for grace. There is no pit too deep that God's hand cannot reach. There is no sin so overwhelming that his love cannot cover it. That is what the cross represents, new beginnings. The cross is heaven's answer to every time you thought it was the end of your story. Did you know Thomas Edison, the man who invented the electric light bulb, failed over 1,000 times before finding success? When asked how he felt about failing so often, he replied, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. I discovered 1,000 ways that didn't work." And what if that's been your life up to now? A path of discovery. What if your mistakes weren't the end, but part of building your testimony? What if, rather than define you, they prepared you? Too many people think they must have everything together before coming to God. But it's quite the opposite. The broken go to the hospital. The stained are the ones who need cleansing. The lost are the ones who must be found. And it is the sinner who needs a savior. You still have time. Forgiveness is still available. Hope is still alive. And even more than that, there's still a purpose waiting for you that no one else can fulfill. Because your failures haven't disqualified you from God's plan. They've only revealed how much you need Him to see it through. And maybe now is the time for you to let go of your own judgment. Because God has already extended His forgiveness. And if He, the Holy One, does not condemn you, why do you keep holding yourself hostage? It's time to leave the past behind. To stop punishing yourself for things already surrendered at the foot of the cross. To lift your head, wipe your tears, and grasp this truth: your story is not over. God still desires to use you. To raise you. To take what you thought was your greatest shame and turn it into your greatest witness. Peter, the one who denied Jesus, not once, but 3 times, became the first to preach after Pentecost. The one who stumbled stood back up with strength. And the same can happen for you. Heaven does not look upon you with disdain. Heaven sees you with love. With the eyes of a Father who knows all of your failings and still whispers, "I choose you." This choice isn't about your perfection. It's about your willingness to return. Because when you return, God rewrites. When you surrender, God rebuilds. When you believe, God transforms. And what once brought shame becomes your story of victory. What once looked like a fall becomes the bridge to your calling. What once felt like guilt is now turning into grace. You are not condemned. You are being called. It's time to come home. God has not given up on you. So now, take a deep breath. Close your eyes for a moment and reflect on everything you've been through. Every attempt you made. Every loss you endured. Think of the nights you wept quietly, the times you wore a smile while your heart was silently breaking. And now, consider this one truth: you're still standing. If you're watching this video right now, it's not a coincidence. God hasn't finished His work in you. He's still unfolding your story. And if you let Him, the chapters ahead could be the most beautiful yet. Don't give up. Not today. Not in this moment. The pain that grips your heart right now will become the very story you'll one day share to inspire others. And when that day arrives, you'll look back and say, "I came so close to giving up, but God held me together." Now, pass this message on to someone who needs to hear it. And remember this: your pain is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of something greater. A new calling is rising from it. God is still reaching out to you. Come back to Him.